Welcome to the Exempt List, part of the Zero Blitz podcast family. I'm your host, Charles McDonald. Today, joined by my good friends, ESPN Dolphins reporter Marcel Louis-Jacques. Marcel, how you doing today?
Oh man, I'm great. It's a Tuesday in May, so I think I'm doing about as good for a Tuesday in May as possible here. Rookie camp starting this week. I feel like somebody check my map. I feel like we're closer to the start of football season than we are to the end of last season, and that's positive. I'm
not going to check your mouth on that for sure. I'm going to take you at your word.
I think it's about 4 months on either side, right? Like give or take a couple days or hours.
Yeah, so let's get the boring stuff out the way first with the Dolphins. There was a lot that happened this weekend, but, this is a football podcast, so we got to start here. I don't know what the hell there is to talk about, but you're my friend. You cover the Dolphins, so let's talk about the Dolphins here real quick. The biggest thing that they have looming on their plate right now is the Tua Tagovailoa contract, which is happening, right? Like they're not going to pull any fast ones and say, actually, we're going to go trade for Dak Prescott instead or something like that, right?
I would never forgive the Dolphins for making me do that, making me cover that. No, I think that this is they, at least in my experience covering this team, they say what they mean or they don't say anything at all. So Chris Greer has said multiple times, like, this is a contract they want to get done. They want this relationship to extend long-term. They want him playing at a high level here long-term. He has more or less done everything that they have asked of him, right? They picked up his fifth year, but they didn't extend him last season because they said, we want to see you last for an entire season and prove that your success in 2022 was not a fluke. He played 17 games, led the NFL in passing yards this year. It wasn't a fluke. I think he is a guy who you can definitely win football games with. I think next up, the hurdle he needs to climb. Are they winning games because of him? Are they winning games when, conditions are poor? And that could mean literal weather conditions, like the game that you and I almost died at in Kansas City earlier this year.
Never again.
Like that face hurt for about an hour after getting into the hotel room and warming up. But I digress. Like it could mean, in weather conditions, it could mean injury conditions. When Tyreek was hurt, Jalen Waddle was hurt late in the year, that productivity tape off a little bit. And so that doubt is starting to creep in of, okay, is he good when everything is good around him, or is he good, period? I think in ideally though, for the Dolphins, like, it's not like they're going to surround him with bad talent. Like they're going to keep adding talent. They're going to keep saying, like, whatever, you guys can debate that. We're just going to give our quarterback as many good receivers as possible, as many good running backs and speed weapons as possible. But, I think that Tua he's a good starter. He's a good starter. He's a Pro Bowl quarterback in this league. Is he a demigod? No. Is he Josh Allen? Is he Pat Mahomes? Is he Lamar Jackson? No. Is he physically as gifted as Justin Herbert? No, but you could argue he's been more productive than Justin Herbert. The problem of all those quarterbacks I just named, though, is they play in the same conference. So, like, you're going to have to go through two or more of them in order to reach a Super Bowl. And that is what I think gives you pause if you're a Dolphins fan. But it's very hard to find a starting quarterback in the NFL. As Dolphins fan need no reminder. They went through 20 years of, Matt Moores, and don't make me name all of these Dolphins quarterbacks, but like they went through years after Dan Marino of not having the guy. And I think this is the closest thing that they've had to it in 25, 30 years.
Yeah. So like, if you're the Dolphins and or really any team, like I would say this applies to the Cowboys too. Like you had a thought of like, okay, maybe we don't want to hand out this big ass contract to a quarterback who we don't feel like is carrying the team. Well, you have to have a plan of what's next. And that's pretty difficult to figure out. You can't just walk into the void or even, you can't even really talk about it theoretically because you know how important quarterbacks are. And let's say you let Tua walk and you don't really have anything on the back burner that you can go to. Okay, well, what happens to the rest of this? What happens to the entire operation? Tyreek's here, we got Waddle here, but we ain't got no one to throw it to them. And even if Tua's not great, he's good enough to make that. He's good enough to make that that setup as good as it can be. I mean, they're still the number one offense in the league for the regular season, and then they get to the playoffs and everything kind of craps out.
And I mean, they had a poor record against good teams last year. You get routed by the Bills in week 4. They get bullied by the Eagles, and I think it was week 7, week 8. They get embarrassed by the Ravens there on New Year's Eve. Like, it was just the only team they beat was the Cowboys, who is the other good team in the NFL who people said were frauds, against tough opponents. So that did not bode well for him in this offense last year. I think there's still a lot of paper tiger allegations about this Dolphins team as a whole. It's not just Tua, but it's a great point. Like, you can't just say, it's easy to say, okay, we need a new quarterback. Tua is not it. It's way harder to find the next it. Like, it's way harder to find it. So, because now you need the draft capital, you need to identify the right guy. He's got to be available for you. Like, just because somebody, Caleb Williams is in this draft, it doesn't mean you can go get a Caleb Williams. It doesn't mean you can go get Jaden Daniels or Drake May, so on and so forth. And Tua is demonstratively better than most of the rookies that come into the league. So it's one of those where, like, Kirk Cousins is not the best quarterback in the NFL, but, like, you're still doing fine if Kirk Cousins is your starting quarterback. You're still doing well. You can win games. You can win a playoff game if Kirk Cousins is your quarterback. Like, it's not the end of the world just because you don't have one of the demigods. And I think that's what, that's kind of what fans have to understand. But at the same time, you shouldn't get demigod money for being a Kirk Cousins caliber quarterback. And I think Tua's a little better than Kirk Cousins, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, he's not, I don't think he should outpace the Josh Allen, the Joe Burrow contracts, the Pat Mahomes contracts. And that's not necessarily something that I think Tua's camp wants to do. Like, I think that they want that tier money.
Oh yeah, I mean, because if you're Tua, and I think this will make the Brock Purdy negotiations interesting too. If I pull up Tua's numbers compared to most of the quarterbacks, he's going to be at the top. By advanced stats, normal Cali stats, he's going to be near the top of just about every list. And then you watch the game, you're like, okay, this you're not exactly like, I don't know if calling him a passenger is correct. I feel like that's a little bit too far, but he's not the conductor of what's going on here. If you were to pull, because the way that we look at Mahomes is like, okay, you had Kelsey, who was clearly on the back end, outside of like that one play he had in the Super Bowl where he decided to hit the Jets and become 23 years old again when they really needed it. But I still feel like I can go win the Super Bowl, or at least have like a top 10 offense with Mahomes, no matter what I put around him. It could be you and me out there, receiver. We're going to go win 13 games. Tua's not the same way. But like you said, most quarterbacks are closer to being a Tua than they ever will being a Mahomes. So,
like, it's not a fair argument. It's not a demerit against somebody that they're not Patrick Mahomes. Like, they've got to make that very clear. Like, we're not saying this guy sucks because he's not Mahomes. He stinks because he's not Josh Allen. Like, there's only a small handful, a pinch, if you will, of guys of that talent. Like, that's not a reason to not re-sign Tua, but it is a reason to not give him God tier money, especially since you have to go through those guys. And paying your quarterback that money does hamstring your offense, does hamstring your overall roster, your ability to re-sign and bring back your own guys. And that day is coming soon. Like, that they've spent a lot of money on this roster. There's going to be a time where, even their core guys, the Jalen Waddles, the Jalen Phillips, the Javon Hollins, need extensions. There's going to be a time where, are you going to pay Devon Achane? Like, are you going to let Bradley Chubb go? Or are you going to keep paying that into his 30s? Like, what's the overall plan here? Jalen Ramsey's not going to be around forever. Tyreek Hill's not going to be around forever. Like, there are financial decisions coming up for this team in their future, and it's hard to make those when you're going to pay your quarterback I mean, what would set the market now? 55 a year, 60 a year? Like it seems like a little, it doesn't seem like a responsible use of money, but he does deserve to get paid. He deserves to get paid more than Daniel Jones because he's better than Daniel Jones. Like if I had to guess, maybe somewhere in that Jalen Hurts area, but I don't know if I would give him market-setting money, but I would definitely pay him, to be clear.
Yeah. What did you feel about where the Dolphins sit for this year after their draft class? I thought they came out with a pretty decent haul, all things considered.
Yeah, fans were mad that they didn't get guys who can contribute right now. You know, when you look at their first-round pick and Chop Robinson, the sack production wasn't there in college. I think 11.5 in 4 years at Maryland and Penn State. He's looked at as more of a project, but like very toolsy guy, like very athletic, explosive off the ball. If he puts it together, which I think the Dolphins staff believes that they can get him to that point, he can be electric in the NFL. Patrick Paul there in the second round. Again, not a position of immediate need. They still need a starting offensive guard. Christian Haynes was on the board at that point. I really thought that pick made more sense if they wanted an instant contributor. But again, another project, another toolsy guy. You love his size, you love his length. You love the opportunity he's going to have to learn under Teron Armstead, who is expected to retire at the end of the season, and then all of a sudden tackle is a very big need. They drafted for the future a little bit with those first two picks, and I think fans would like to see guys who are going to play right now and contribute right now. You know, maybe Jerzan Newton in the first round, although he did fall to the early second, so maybe didn't have as many first round grades as we, the media, thought. Or like I said, Haynes there in the second. But I thought that they cleaned up pretty well there toward the end of the draft. I like Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. Not a big position of need per se, since they do have Raheem Mostert, they do have Devon Achane. But both of those guys were banged up at various times last season. So clearly they need a third runner. They need to add more bodies so that they can spread those carries out a little bit. And Wright is another home run hitter, also a good pass protector. Like Malik Washington a lot, receiver out of Virginia. They needed a third receiver. You know, I mentioned it earlier here that this offense sort of fell apart a little bit after Tyreek and Jalen Waddle were banged up at the end of the season. It's not all on Tua. It's the fact that there was no other receiver. And so defenses could hyper-focus on that one guy instead of having the threat of two home run hitters on the outside. So I like adding Malik Washington. Taj Washington, I think, maybe stretched to make the roster, but, decent player as well. So like they did make some additions. Oh, and I forgot Mo Kamara, the edge rusher out of Colorado State as well in the third round. I think he is going to be asked to play pretty early. You know, if Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, if they're not ready to go by the start of the season, they'll come back from the Achilles and the ACL tear, then they are going to need Kamara. They are going to need Chop Robinson to play fairly early. All they have right now is Shaquille Barrett. That's their, no disrespect to Shaq Barrett, but like that's their edge rusher room before the draft.
Yeah, no disrespect to him. It's just it's thin. I understand why they took Chop, because when you're dealing with two season-ending injuries like that, you got to have some insurance on the back end. Like if things don't go right, because rehab can be a little random. You never know what's going to happen.
Fifth round, my bad. Fifth round for Kamara. It didn't feel right when I said it out loud, but fifth round for Kamara.
I thought they came out pretty nice. Honestly, I like Chop just as a long-term play. And if you're gonna be a team that just hired Anthony Weaver, I mean, he's got as much defensive line experience as far as teaching as you'll find in the NFL. So it kind of makes sense to pair him with Weaver and see if he can get the most out of it there. And then the Patrick Paul pick I thought was interesting. I was kind of surprised that he fell as far as he did, but yeah, you're right. It's like there's a lot of potential here. It might not be a whole lot of early returns. I don't know how much this draft change is about like what we thought about the Dolphins already coming into 2024. But moving forward, it's a pretty good foundational draft, I think. You'll have room for Chop Robinson to go, Patrick Paul to grow. I like both receivers picks that they had on day 3. Even Tosh Washington, he's someone that I feel like every time I was watching USC for the past 4 years, even before Caleb Williams got there, it's like, oh, this guy's making plays. Like he's doing some stuff out there. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Obviously top dog Tyreek Waddle, but after that,
they need a wide receiver. There's a little bit of competition there.
Right.
Like I think Malik has a better shot than Taj right now. Agreed. But like Taj is going to be battling with guys, with the Braxton Berrios is a lock because he's a returner. Mike McDaniel loves Robert Craycraft. Eric Ezukama is a name to watch. Guy who really popped his rookie year at training camp and in the preseason. I want to say he led the league in receiving yards in the preseason 2022, but just couldn't get on the field. Coaching staff didn't trust him, didn't trust that he would make the right decision in certain situations, so he didn't really play. More, healthy scratch more often than not. As a rookie, neck injury last year, he missed most of the season. So that's a guy, they spent a 4th round pick on him. I know they believe in him. They think that he's a versatile weapon. A guy that they can, I know a lot of people either peg Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle into that Deebo Samuel role, but like that's Eric Ezukama is a guy who, they messed around with that a lot at training camp. I think he's versatile enough to do that if he is healthy and if it's clicking for him now in year 3. So like there are some options. They're only going to keep so many receivers, but I'm not going to say Taj doesn't have a chance, but he is going to have to fight.
Let's talk about the Dolphins. Let's get to the fun stuff. Kendrick versus Drake and the Tom Brady beef. We'll get to you that. We'll get that to you guys after word from our sponsors. I gotta say, man, this Kendrick and Drake thing, it spiraled way bigger than I thought it was going to, because when it started, I was like, this is fake. Like both of these guys are so big, and like accomplished that I don't really see how anyone could get hurt like this. Because we've seen in the past, probably like off more in the 90s, like where you look at where guys have actually had their careers damaged by rap beef. But in the 2020s, it didn't really seem like, this is something that could really hurt Kendrick Lamar. This is something that could really hurt Drake. And now, and then last weekend happened. And then last weekend happened where, like, if you're like a diehard Drake supporter, there's nothing you can do but just cope, I guess, and really just like tell yourself that things are okay, or that he won this beef because people are dancing in the street saying that Drake touches kids, bro. Like,
look, man. And if your grandmaster plan was for this to happen, it didn't work.
No,
it's not working, Aubrey. Like, I don't. So let me get this. Let me make this clear. If he did set Kendrick up, if he did provide fake information and Dot took the bait, that's master planning, man. Like that's a good move. Kendrick should be a little bit embarrassed by that. But if that was the case, why did it take, 2 days for the Hart Part 6 to come out?
Yeah.
Like, why are you letting this man make drop after drop after drop, knowing the court of public opinion is really the only one that matters? Like,
right.
People do not care about the truth. You couldn't, it doesn't matter. Can we bot to this? Can we dance? And is it funny? Kendrick just checked every bot. He beat him lyrically. He's beaten him in hits. Like, Not Like Us is the best song out of this entire saga.
Dude, it's just like to go back in chronological order, this got messy pretty fast because all of a sudden, like it started off with like the Like That verse where Kendrick is like, it was really on some playful shit, I feel like at first, where it was like, well, maybe not like super playful, but like not harmful, It
wasn't pointed, you know what I mean? Like, it was probably less damaging than that Control verse, or like less pointed than that Control verse from 10 years ago.
Yeah. And it's just like, big three, no, it's just me. Okay, like that's typical, it's his rap, I'm the best, whatever, that's nothing. And then, you get down to where Drake does the 6 verse 1 where he's dissing Future and Rick Ross and Metro Boomin and Kendrick and J. Cole and all those guys. And then, but even that one was like, all right, like we're still just doing braggadocious stuff outside of the Metro.
Exactly.
Shut up and,
I'm better than you. Your album sucked.
Right.
Your manager takes all your money. Your label takes all your money. Like, still nothing serious.
And then we get to the point where like serious allegations are being thrown, where Drake has accused Kendrick of domestic violence. Kendrick has accused Drake of, pedophilia and being a creep. But in the absence of facts on both sides, because at the end of the day, like, these guys are not journalists, right? They're not reporters. They're not detectives doing investigative stuff. So you should be taking like all of what they're saying with a grain of salt in terms of just like the pure facts that we have at case. But
yeah, it's all rumors, man. Like
there is one aspect of this that's not a rumor, though. We have seen Drake on multiple occasions have inappropriate relationships with girls ranging from 13 to like 17. We have seen this where it's Millie Bobby Brown, or if it's a girl on stage where she's 17 and Drake's saying like, you're going to get me in trouble, and then kissing her on stage. We've seen that. And that's something that's already been out in the court of public opinion about Drake well before this beef started. So in the absence of facts that we actually have on both sides, we do have this kind of shining example of at least Drake having some, uncouth activity towards younger women. So that's the one thing we have to latch on to. You get Family Matters, which obviously for Drake, when you come out, you make that music video, 7 minutes of rapping. The last 2 verses were pretty hard. That was supposed to be the bomb. And then 20 minutes after that, Kendrick dropped something so sinister on Meet the Grams that I literally don't think Drake is capable of doing. So if you're here for like just the bars, I'm coming after people, and Meet the Grams, that was for you. And then if you want the bop 24 hours later, you got Not Like Us. And that was someone tweeted at me this morning, Not Like Us was the most streamed song in a day that Spotify has ever had.
And it beat out the that Drake Lil Baby song, like Girls Like Girls or something like that, which I couldn't believe that had the record. I thought that was one of the corniest songs Drake has ever made, but I digress. Yeah. One of these guys looks like they are actually calculated. Like one of these guys looks like they had a concrete plan this entire time. Like Kendrick dropping 30 minutes after Family Matters, like that's the kind of speed that I expected Drake to drop the Hart Part 6 after. Like if you planted information, it should be ready to go, right? Like not, okay, let me scour the internet. Actually, this theory looks pretty good. I think we can run with that. But like I like what you said, like the court public opinion of Drake's behavior toward underage young women. Kendrick doesn't necessarily have to prove it. I'm not saying like he should, but he doesn't have to prove it, because in everybody's mind, yeah, that is Drake. That is what Drake does. Okay, yeah, I'm sold there. Meanwhile, like Drake is pulling up allegations that I think we've heard once of Kendrick, and he addressed it on the morning show on Breakfast Club
10 years ago.
It was absolutely not true, the domestic violence, which if it is true, like it's devastating to hear about Kendrick Lamar. Like, let's be very clear. I'm not going to sit here and say no one cares, like that we don't condone that behavior even at all whatsoever. But I don't know where, I don't know how he proves it. I just listened to the Hart Part 6 this morning again, and Drake saying, "Oh, if I snitch, where's the paperwork?" If he beat his wife, where's the paperwork? Like, where's
now? I also think people who are calling for Kendrick's wife Whitney to come out and speak about this. That's probably an unfair responsibility on her part, because she doesn't really have anything to do with any of this. This is and even if, and I would say the same for like Drake's family when they got hit on Meet the Grams, they don't need to speak on that song. That's not their responsibility to further get themselves involved with the rap beef that has kind of galvanized the nation against Drake. And the funny thing is, like, Family Matters, that verse was hard at the end. Like, he was rapping, and what to me, like, what makes it so impressive is that a song that was like actually had like hit material and he was rapping got smothered in 20 minutes. Gone. It was gone. Out of the stadium. Don't care anymore. And so I get up on Sunday morning. I'm walking around my neighborhood getting some errands done, and I hear three shops on my street, three shops on my street blasting "Not Like Us" on the out the bodegas. And everyone's just like, "OVO, OVO." I'm like, whoa. Like this is
God.
like the quickness in which that song went from like diss track to no, we're outside with it. I don't know how you come back from that. I really don't.
I don't either. I don't either. Like I almost, my fiance was asleep because all this dropped at like 11:30 midnight Eastern. I almost had to wake her up. I was like, babe, Kendrick just dropped again. Like, yeah, I don't know if you need to know what this. It was the first thing I said to her when I woke up the next morning. 8 a.m. I opened my eyes and she's getting ready for work. I was like, babes, I've been waiting 8 hours to tell you this, like to talk about this with you. Like it's a monumental moment in rap history. Like I don't know if I called it possibly the greatest day in rap history. I know that's, just me being kind of a prisoner of the moment, but like I'm 31, about to be 32 years old. Like this is, in my conscious memory, the most significant day in rap history that I remember. We got it was a volley back and forth, 3 drops in one day. I think is kind of unheard of. Anytime that we see rappers beef, musicians, artists beef, like you drop a song, couple days to simmer, maybe a week to simmer. I think that's what Drake was expecting. Like nobody really saw this coming except for apparently Kendrick Lamar, who had an entire master plan of, this is what I expect you to say. This is what I think you're going to do. This is what I have written for your entire family. It was, in recent memory, I don't remember somebody, going back to Meet the Grams, I don't remember somebody being that personal toward people's family.
The last time I can remember something like that, maybe Hit 'Em Up, where Tupac at the end just kind of blacks out and just started screaming like Prodigy, you got sickle cell. And I was like, whoa. You're like, you're really mad.
Although like the previous most evil diss track I'd ever heard was Story of Adidon.
Yeah.
Where, talking to Noah 40, talking about tick, tick, tick. Like
OVO 40 hunched over like he 80.
I was like, oh my, bro, you have no decorum. You are a super villain, man. But like, I just remember sitting there like, I think we all reacted in real time. So I remember you texting the chat, like, this is insane. I'm sitting there mouth agape while listening to Meet the Grams. Like, cause I just got done vibing. I'd played Family Matters like 2 or 3 times in a row. I said, oh damn. Like I texted Cameron Wolf. I was like, hey man, Drake is rapping again. And 30 minutes later, all caps, never mind, bro, not his rapping. Just reply. Nothing he just said mattered, bro.
I thought a really interesting thing last week through the weekend about the beef was there's a lot of vitriol in the industry towards Drake on like a wide scale level that kind of got unearthed this week, where I thought the first interesting part was Al Green greenlighting a sample for Euphoria. So, or I think it was either Euphoria or 616.
I think it was 616.
616. Al Green greenlighting the sample for that to get that on streaming. And then also Al Green tweeting the song that Kendrick used for 616 on his own Twitter account right after it dropped.
What does Al Green have against Drake?
Right. Okay, so then I was like, damn, like, okay, so Al Green might have some feelings toward Drake. Then you get Tupac's estate cease and desist for the tailor-made freestyle. Snoop Dogg said he didn't know he was going to be used as AI. Then, even on a smaller level, you have guys like Terrace Martin, Smino, Fonte from Ninth Wonder. They're like, hey, man, this Drake stuff is kind of whack, like, when you think about it. Then I think where Drake really messed up in terms of, like, his relationships with other people was the Free the Slaves line on Family Matters, because then Kendrick gets to do the, when he gets back to Not Like Us, the Atlanta rappers part where it's like, free the slaves. Like, no.
You're still talking about it.
You were an outsider to all of this at one point, and you were able to jump on some waves that helped you. But I think, at some point, like, you make a song with Drake, you're printing money, right? So people are going to get over this at some point. But I do think that the way that he has interacted with a genre that's full of Black people from the outside, looks like he's not really as popular that, with for people working in the industry as maybe we thought from the outside. So I think it'll be interesting just to see how that affects his relationships and the songs that he's able to make moving forward, like in the immediate future.
He's like that rich kid in high school that like nobody really likes, but like, if you hang out with him, like,
You have a good time.
he's gonna take us to Aruba. Like, family's gonna rent out a cabin for spring break or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's an auto hit. If Drake reposts your song, like, you do celebrate. Like, I'm not gonna take anything away from this man. He is the biggest artist in the world. Like, it's like you said, printing money, but they definitely do not like him. And like, I think though, Drake is not, I don't think he's inherently mean. Like, I don't think he wants to be mean. I think Kendrick can be mean. I think Kendrick is mean-spirited. This was a mean-spirited series of songs that he just let out. Like, I love what you said. Like, push-ups. It was all fun and games. You're short. Your label takes your money. Kendrick comes back like, Dennis Graham, you raised a horrible person. You should be ashamed. Like, this is a pedophile. He hires pedophiles. He brings his kids around pedophiles. People will open cases up. Like, it's just.
Then he said, Adonis, look, you're not going to get raised right, but I got this verse right here for you, man. Just come back to this when you're 18.
Play this when you're 18. Like,
you're out of your damn minds.
It does probably speak to how hard it is to really knock Drake down.
Right.
That like the two most significant diss tracks against him have dragged his kid into it. Like, I don't necessarily love that. Let me be clear.
I don't love that either.
The petty, immature part of me is like, wow, he really did that. But like the 31-year-old's like, all right, man, like this kid's like 7 years old.
Yeah. The only part that I didn't like from Kendrick, which like, I don't know, he's kind of whooped ass so thoroughly here, it's just not gonna matter. The one thing I didn't like from him was like on Meet the Grams when he's kind of like championing himself as like, women, you got to stay away from Drake. Like, bro, you had Kodak Black all over your last album on purpose.
Like,
all right,
let's look in the mirror a little bit.
Let's look in the mirror. Just hear a little bit.
Just that.
You're not fucking Hercules for women, all right?
I did like how, I think like the best thing that Drake said that I don't know how much run it's getting, how much attention it's getting. But he nailed it at the end of the Hart, and when he's just kind of like ranting, he's like, "Hey man, like I guess I really touched the nerve. I'm happy that I could make you rap. Like I'm happy that I could wake you up here." That's absolutely right. I appreciate Drake for that because we have not got this much new Kendrick in God knows how long. Like he also made some sort of mention that like, oh, your album dropping soon. Like I do wonder does Kendrick have an album dropping soon? Is this something I'm not aware of, or is this a deeper play I would like to think it's not a deeper play just for PR and attention.
I don't think so. Because why would Drake agree to this part of it? That's where I'm at.
Not for Drake. I'm saying like Kendrick's out. I don't think Kendrick would stoop to that.
No, I've seen some nihilists on the internet being like, oh, this is all just contrived so that they can drop an album at some point. I'm like, I don't think so, man. I really don't think so.
Yeah. I do think it's real hatred.
Well,
from one person. Like, I think it is, I've said this, I said it before, and I still believe it. I think Drake is responding because he is mentioned. Like, Drake's responding because he has to, and he's talented enough, and he's a good enough actor that he can, a good enough writer.
You were right the first time, good enough actor.
Yeah, he can make it sound like he really feels angry about this. But like one of these men hates the other. And I don't know that Drake hates Kendrick. I think Drake is just like, all right, like I have to do this.
Yeah, I do think if I was Drake, I would be a little surprised finding out how many people I've worked with actively do not like me. That'd be a little interesting to reconcile with. Last part that I have on this is, dude, the hard part 6. Just like the idea of planning this and planting that story about having a daughter, which we still don't know if it's true or not, because Drake saying that he doesn't have a daughter is not good enough for me to believe that he doesn't have a daughter. I don't know. And also, if you're that famous, how could you ever be sure? If you're that famous and you're that outside, how could you ever be sure? Like,
Right. Speaking of that famous lines, we would be remiss if we did not mention.
Yes.
I'm too famous to be a child molester, bro.
That's not how that works at all.
That is not it.
That's in America. That's the exact opposite of how that works. Like we were just talking last week, or people on the internet were just talking last week about Jerry Seinfeld dating a high schooler at the peak of his fame. All right, man. Like famous people, we saw the Harvey Weinstein stuff. We've seen Kevin Spacey stuff. Famous people are like
all the
time. Yeah. So if you planted all this stuff, how dumb do you feel right now?
Right, because like it backfired.
It backfired.
Again, no one cares because everybody is crip walking to not like us outside. Like you have there's no recourse for there's no rebound from this. I like listening to the Hart. Like I let it sit, for a day or so before re-listening to it today, and like it's a fine song. Like it's not a bad song. I don't think the only bad song Drake has put out was that tailor-made freestyle. This AI voice filter is super corny, but you can't follow that up. You can't follow not like us up. Like you were taking an L no matter what. So I kind of appreciate him just saying, okay, well, like no matter what I say, nobody's really gonna rock with it. So let me just address these allegations and get out. He just did a weird job of addressing these allegations.
It was sloppy. It was sloppy for sure. But to Drake's credit, you have to say, hey, I'm not a child molester. You can't let that sit there. You have to say something. But he been backed into such a corner that there was nothing he could put out that was going to resonate with like people at large. Sure, you still got your Aubrey fanboys that are going to say that this worked on them. All right, whatever. You're like in the 2%. That's fine. The rest of us, we're going to be bopping to Kendrick albums for the rest of the summer. All right, that's all I got on that. But speaking of distasteful, back and forth, Tom Brady roast this weekend. That was my transition. There we go.
It's funny. Like really way funnier than I expected.
Yeah. The one thing I feel like we learned from this was, wow, Tom Brady really holds Robert Kraft in like a high opinion of, because Tom did not let anyone touch those massage parlor jokes after Jeff Ross tried up there. But everything else was fair game. Marriage, fair game. Aaron Hernandez caught a lot of jokes.
Yeah, that one like here. Because I was after like the sixth Aaron Hernandez jokes. They're like when he was like, it's pretty easy to be a tight end in New England. Catch passes, block, don't murder people. It's like, I mean, the thing is though, like it's so hard to be upset about things that are said at a roast because like you're not going to win that fight. Like if you try to go up in arms and like say this was distasteful, this was that, like no one's gonna take you seriously because it's a roast. Like you kind of know what you're watching, you know what you're getting yourself into when you go to one, when you listen and watch one. But yeah, man, I will just say I'm not offended. I was shocked by how many Aaron Hernandez jokes came from Patriots players themselves. You know what I mean? I expected that from Nikki Glaser. I don't expect that from Tom Brady.
Tommy made one at the end of the roast. I think what you can learn from the Tom Brady roast is you can still kind of say whatever you want as long as it's actually funny.
Fair.
Like, because there were a lot of jokes that obviously crossed the line, but that's kind of the point. And it probably works better in a setting like that. But also, the idea that, you can't really make these insensitive jokes. Yeah, you can. People's attention spans are pretty short. I'm not saying it's right.
I think Julian Edelman was like, oh, everybody's making short jokes at you, Kevin Hart. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make black jokes. And it was funny. If I remember correctly.
It was funny.
It's like, all right, that was you took a risk and you nailed that. You nailed that. But like, some of them fell flat. I thought like that Tom Segura and Brett, what's his last name?
I don't know. Tom and Brett, they were awful.
Yeah, but like the Hitler thing, it took so long to build up, and then calling him it was just like this payoff wasn't worth it, and it's not funny.
Yeah,
it's not funny.
Well, you also
Man,
always know it's bad when someone's sitting there laughing at their own jokes like more than the crowd is laughing, and you just kind of trip your way, and it's painstaking, and you end up Tom Brady's like Hitler. Well, no, not actually.
no, why is that? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't even remember Ben Affleck's. I couldn't tell if he was when he was being serious and when he was joking, which I guess credit to him as an actor. Could have did without that. I think Randy Moss caught some heat for not being very funny.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't expect Randy Moss to be funny.
And
yeah, like I like the angle. Like I appreciate what he was going for. Like, bro, where's my ring? Like, why am I the only one that played with you that didn't get a ring? And it's like, yeah, he didn't. That's true. I didn't think about that.
Nikki Glaser was the best for sure.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. The judo, the Giselle jiu-jitsu jokes. I love the camera panning to Tom's face because like it hurt a little bit every single time.
You could see
as it should. It hurt a little bit every single time.
You could see like the drops of Botox like pouring it out of his face with every jiu-jitsu joke, because that was like, he might have gotten up and said something about Robert Kraft when Jeff Ross made that joke about Robert Kraft, but he was speaking with like his facial expressions on the
you can't do that. Like, you can't sit there. It's the roast of Tom Brady. You are an idiot if you think that nobody's going to touch the Giselle divorce, and he doesn't strike me as an idiot. Like, he knew what he was getting himself into. But Nikki Glaser was hilarious. That like, you have 7 rings, 8 now that Giselle gave hers back. Perked my head up. I was like, "Who is this? You're spending."
there was the one part that I really found funny was like the first stupid joke that someone made at Gronk. He was laughing. But like by the 5th or the 6th, he was not laughing at them anymore.
Even Gronk know that's not real money.
Someone said Bitcoin is when Gronk bites a nickel. Like,
it did get to a point where he's just sitting there like arm up, like
who's this roast about, me or him?
Hey man, me don't think that's funny, but he was good. And then there's, to this day, I don't remember his name. Jeff something. It was some guy that they pulled out of the crowd, like who like introduced Dana White, and then he came up on stage from the crowd and just dressed everybody down on stage. Like, it was bar after bar after bar, and I wish it was enough for me to remember his name. I do not, so I'm sorry to this person, but he was very funny too. Yeah,
I'm also someone who's not really in like the stand-up comedy, consuming that stuff a bunch. So I didn't know everyone who was on stage, but I know after that I'm gonna be looking for more Nikki Glaser stuff, and I'm going to be avoiding Bert and Tom, whoever those guys were. Like, that was such a disaster.
So disappointing, dude. I think Bert is funny. Like, every the Instagram, TikTok clip I've seen of him has been pretty funny. This just was like, damn, bro.
Hey, if you were, I noticed that their faces were a little red, right, during the thing, and then when Bert and Tom, after they kind of bombed, maybe one of them put a little baggie up to the camera. I was like, whoa.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly. I was like, whoa. You doing drugs before you go roast Tom Brady like that? Like, maybe that's for after, I feel like. You don't want to get too hopped up. You can't
focus, man. Also, but then just a quiet, funny bit. I didn't think Kim Kardashian was great overall, but she made some jokes about like, my family is done defending former football players. That was like, hey, all right. That was a pretty good one.
It was pretty good. Pretty good one.
Kanye,
she caught a good straight about Kanye, I thought, when they were like, your kids shouldn't be around your father or something like that.
It's like she didn't want to be here because now like her kids are with her father, something like that.
Yeah.
You can see it in her face that it's like, oh my God. That just set me back 3 months. Like, I expected a whole stream of vitriol from Kanye after that.
Yeah.
Like, I expected him to hop on Twitter immediately.
Getting Bill and Tom together, I think was good. I kind of feel like something like that, where there's just so much tension built up, where you just kind of get to each other for a little bit. Maybe that can bring them back together a little bit. But I thought it was good to get, the moment where Gronk got them all take a shot together during the roast, and you know,
Spike the glass.
spike the glass. I was like, hey, there's still a long time to go here. You know, you're not
Kevin
the last
Hart.
act.
That was my favorite Kevin Hart. I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll clean it up. Yeah, don't even trip. That's a normal thing to do. Sure. Right, thanks, Gronk. Yeah, good boy. Get the shot glass from under the podium. No, bro, put that. Somebody help him. He's up there by himself.
Yeah, I understand why you're getting upset at the dumb jokes and you go and spike a shot glass on the stage. All right, man.
It's like, all right, man. Like whatever. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to complain about it because then like the roast purists are going to come to me and say, it's a roast. You shouldn't be, it's not for you if you're going yeah, okay. I get it.
All right.
I get it. Not actually upset, for the record. Not actually upset.
No.
It was dumb, but I'm not.
Oh, I'm not upset because it wasn't about me, you know? So, okay.
Yeah. If it was my roast and somebody spiked a shot glass afterward, I'm probably didn't need to do that. It was a little bit, some touch overboard, but everything else is fine.
All right. Well, hopefully more athletes will feel comfortable getting their ass roasted up there. I don't know if we will because they touched some pretty sensitive spots with the Tom Brady stuff. Giselle even said today, I saw this morning, Giselle was like, hey, why are you making so much fun of me at this roast?
What did I do?
You caught some strays, but I don't know how you couldn't be prepared for that. You should just slept through. That's what I would have done. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Exempt List. Thanks, Marcel, for coming on. Well, before I let you out of here, do you want to let people know, what you're working on, or where they can find you?
You can find me at ESPN.com. Go to the NFL tab, click on Miami Dolphins, subscribe. You'll get all alerts, all push alerts, all notifications, breaking news, so on and so forth. You can follow me also on Twitter at Marcel_LJ. Anything that I am working on, anything that I hear, any opinions I have, football, Dolphins, Kanye, Kendrick, Drake, or otherwise, you'll find it on there. So I appreciate any support and hope you all enjoyed the show.
All right. Yeah. So we'll be back next Tuesday with another episode of the Exempt List. We have a summer schedule change. Zero Bliss podcast with Jason Fitz and Frank Schwab will be next up on Thursday. I'm Charles McDonald. You can find me on Twitter at 4verts. Marcel is on Twitter at Marcel_LJ. Thanks to Joe DeLeon for helping us out behind the glass, and we will see you next Tuesday.